Okay, good. Well, it's Earth Day. I think I'll start with that. And also, it's April 22nd, 2023. And for the spheres that I've been tracking, the people that I've been speaking to in the last week or so, it's been a tough week. And just kind of rattly and feelings of some kind of chaos in there and ungrounding. And spring can sometimes do that, I think, in general, kind of feeling like all of those sprouts are pushing up through the earth, and we can feel some of that energy inside of us too, and around us. And so if any of that resonates, just know you're not alone. And I have organized today's class as a heart-centered class. I'm calling it Wholehearted Living. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. I have been practicing this class, as I often do before I teach it. I practice it every day, and it has been really nourishing. It's a lot close to the earth because I feel like my body was needing that this week. And so there's going to be more on the mat than there will be standing. And what I often think of is kind of opening up when we attend to the heart. First of all, we have to go in so gently. We have to ask permission from the heart protector, which is the pericardium around the heart. And that our hearts don't necessarily just want to be kind of stripped open. I don't think any of us like that feeling. It's a gentle, kind of request and waiting and a softening and allowing. So, and we're going to attend to that from the diaphragm as one of those gateways to the heart, knowing that the connective tissue of the diaphragm wraps around and becomes the pericardium, or that heart protector. So as we work with breath and we work with opening the diaphragm, that becomes one of those invitations for the heart. And then we'll also work a little with side bodies, and we'll work a little bit with throat and shoulders, all the areas that surround our hearts. And as we attend to the heart, I will also invite you at this point to start to think of the different qualities of heartfulness: the open heart, the full heart, the brave and courageous heart, and the vulnerable heart, who is capable of feeling the pain and the beauty of the world like an innocent child. We'll also tap into what I'll call the clear heart, which is that capacity within us to shine like a diamond. And I think that's what our world needs a whole lot of right now. So perhaps we can be a little bit of that clarity in the chaos. We'll borrow a little bit of that word courage, which for my folks that speak French here, the heart as the root word of that. And to recognize that courage is allowing your defensive physiology to soften, which then makes way for love. Okay. I'm going to read a quote from the Therapeutic Yoga for Trauma. And here I write, "It takes courage to lay down your armor. You are taking the risk of being hurt again. Choosing to engage wholeheartedly in this complex and hurting world is a profound spiritual path. To lead with an open heart, you must learn to turn toward your own wounds, while simultaneously recognizing that the events of your past do not need to define your future. And we learn to relate to the pain that others carry without becoming overwhelmed. This requires recognizing that you're not responsible for their pain, right? We develop the capacity to connect to others and still remain connected to self, right? And we don't have to protect others from their difficult feelings, and they don't have to protect us from ours. That's what is this courageous journey, Okay. As we deepen here, I'd love to share a few quotes and then a poem, and then we'll dive into our physical practice. The quotes are from John Wellwood in his book, Love and Awakening. It is only through letting our heart break that we discover something unexpected. The heart can't actually break. The heart cannot actually break. It can only break open. So when we feel both our love for this world and the pain of this world together at the same time, the heart begins to break out of its shell. To live with an open heart is to experience life full strength. When the heart breaks open, it marks the beginning of a real love affair. It's a love affair with this world. It's the broken-hearted love affair rather than the conventional kind based on hope and expectation. Only in this fearless love, only in this fearless love that can respond to life's pain as well as its beauty can we be of real help to ourselves or anyone else in this difficult age. The broken-hearted warrior is an essential archetype for our time. And still, I will call this wholehearted living. That's what we're up to today. The broken heart and the courageous heart. So here's our poem, and then we'll dive in. Poem is called One Morning by Rosemary Watola Tromer. One morning, we will wake up and forget to build that wall we've been building, the one between us, the one we've been building perhaps for years out of some sense of right and boundary, perhaps out of habit. One morning, we will wake up and we will let our empty hands hang empty at our sides. Perhaps they will rise as empty things sometimes do when blown by the wind. Perhaps they will simply not remember how to grasp or how to rage. We will wake up that morning and we will have misplaced all our theories about why and how and who did what to whom. We will have mislaid all our timelines of when and plans of what, and we will not scramble to write the plans and theories anew. On that morning, not much else will have changed. Whatever is blooming will still be blooming. Whatever is wilting will wilt. There will be fields to plow and trains to load and children to feed and work to do. And in every moment, in every action, we will feel the urge to say thank you. And we will follow the urge to bow. Thank you. I'm shifting to my mat. We're going to have some fun because I think we need a little joy. Yeah. So, to begin, okay. To begin, we're going to start with the breath, as we often do, because I think that will be restorative. I'm going to sit on just a little lift. You might choose to do the same, really just supporting your spine to be a little longer for this moment. And we'll begin with a 3-part breath, sometimes referred to as a Dirga pranayama. We're going to experiment with it today as what's referred to as Viloma, which is that we'll pull in a little bit of air, pause, pull in a little bit more air, pause. We'll do a third, and then we'll exhale and let it go. And the 3-part breath is often this action of filling belly, diaphragm, chest, and then the exhale. So I'll guide us here. Inhale. And again, 1. Again. I'm exhaling through the mouth. That's up to you. Let's do it one more time. And then pause for just a moment. Pause with the sensation of the lingering experience of that focused breath. Maybe a little tingling or aliveness. And then perhaps in this pause, a moment to set your own intention for what it is you would like to get out of today. And I'll invite you to set that intention around your heart space, like a seed that you're planting into the earth and just waiting for the earth to fully receive her. When you're ready, I'll invite you to return to breath. And this time, maybe a hand over your belly and a palm over your heart. And then beginning to find that breath. You can find it in 3 parts again, perhaps not that same kind of dramatic quality, but filling belly, diaphragm, heart, and allowing your spine to be part of the journey so that as you fill, you might lengthen and arch your spine a little. And exhale, drawing everything back and in, finding the contraction with the exhale, some expansion with your inhale. And you might choose to find a little more movement with your arms. That's up to you. So we're waking up breath and the organ system of the front body and your spine. And for this next series, I'll invite you to take hands to shoulders and on an inhale, opening your elbows, lifting your chin. And on an exhale, drawing everything back in, elbows might come together in front of your heart and moving with your breath. And you might add on to this with a gentle, loving, and perhaps even slightly fierce or courageous lion's breath, sticking your tongue out, ha, and a sound. Two more like that. An opportunity to let something go through sound. And then releasing your hands once again, pausing in stillness. And then from here, an invitation into your side bodies, leaning to one side, finding your rhythm, just a gentle movement or stillness, whatever serves you here. And then as you lift, we're going to stick to the same side, just ear to shoulder, maybe walking your opposite fingers away, and you can use that arm like a little lever here, just breathing into the side of your neck. And if you'd like a support for your head with your hand, same side. And then using your breath to breathe into any sticky spots. You might even use your eyes to advance the stretch, reaching eyes towards shoulder or elbow. And then you can also reach your eyes in the opposite direction, like towards the corner where the ceiling and the wall meet if you're inside. And then slowly, gently returning eyes to center, head to center, a moment to recalibrate. And side two. You can start with the lean. You get to choose whether you want to keep the upper arm by your side or lifted overhead. You get to choose stillness or movement. And then returning to center. Ear to shoulder, same side. Maybe arm reaches like a lever and you can lift or lower slightly. Maybe you support your head with your fingertips and then sending your breath into any areas that are calling for your attention. Maybe your eyes reaching towards shoulder or elbow. Maybe your eyes extend in the opposite direction. And then eyes to center, everything to center. Pausing and receiving. And we'll put it together for a moment by finding a little spiral motion, a rotation of upper body around your pelvic bowl, and experiencing the three-dimensionality of your body, and particularly feeling that around your heart space. And coordinating with breath, you can inhale forward and exhale back. And then going in the opposite direction. And you always get to fine tune the range of motion here so that you're really backing off from any pressing or too much efforting that feels like a strain. Go towards easy. Good. And then return into center. This time, an invitation for some shoulder rolls. You can take them in one direction to start, and you can leave your arms down, or you can let your arms go with your shoulders. And take them the other direction. Again, exploring how it feels to coordinate breath and movement here. And then the invitation is to clasp your hands behind your back. The clasp right here, and you'll create a little squeeze in the back of your heart space here. And you can find that right amount of engagement so that it's not too much pressure. And then if it feels right, maybe taking your clasped hands across to your left hip. We'll greet your neck once again, and this time leaning your ear towards the right, or you can tuck your chin down a little bit and finding some micro movements. And you might also take your head across to the other side and finding some micro movements. And then softening head, neck to center, reaching your hands back and long for a moment before switching sides. Hands coming towards right shoulder, and you can start by taking your head in the opposite direction, ear reaching down, or maybe your chin down a little bit. And then sending your breath like you have little balloons in your neck and you're just trying to inflate and give space. And then maybe you take your head and neck across towards the right. And then head to center. One more reach through your hands and release. Maybe shake out your arms for a moment. Good. From here, okay, remember where I'm going next. From here, invitation is to draw your arms up overhead. To twist around towards the right, you can place your right fingertips behind, and I'll invite you to grab hold of your right knee with your left hand. And perhaps for a moment, taking that twist all the way through the spine, even allowing your chin to come toward your right shoulder. Come back to breath here. And then the invitation is to take just your head and chin towards your left shoulder. So we have a counter twist in the neck. And then keeping your gaze towards the left, maybe begin to lean your left shoulder down towards your left knee. You can take the right arm up overhead if you'd like. And finding that opening in your side body, rib cage. And then relifting, untwisting. All right, we'll find that on side two. Hopefully that feels good to you. And on an exhale, turning to the left, hooking right hand, left knee, left fingertips can come behind. And we'll start with the traditional stretch, extending your gaze, your chin, head twisting to the left, coming to your breath. And then just your head turning towards your right shoulder. And then maybe begin to lean, leaning right shoulder towards right knee, maybe left arm up overhead, and let that feel delicious. Let's go for that. And then slowly return. Okay. We'll get out of the upper body and out of that seated position for the legs for a moment, just rotating both feet in one direction and the other, and your knees, just releasing out through the joints of your legs. Good. And we'll get into the hips by just rocking these from one side to the other. A little deer flow here. And as you find that rock, you might pause on one side, reach or lower, whatever your body's calling for. And then roll it around to the other side. What does this side want? And in your own timing, 2 more times to each side. Glorious. And then returning to center, this time invitation is to take soles of your feet together for a moment and greet yourself in cobblers. And this may look different for you than anybody else. So you honor your range of motion. And it's nice, sometimes I like to take my elbows and massage the inner line of the legs, or hands to massage the feet. You might be lower down, you might be well lifted, your knees might be lifted, all welcome here. And then once you feel complete in that shape, the invitation is to come to your back, and I will invite you to take a block with you as you lower down onto your back. Okay. So we're going to use the block here to support core strengthening. So most of you who've taken with me before at least know that I like to integrate some core strengthening into most of my series, because it will strengthen us for one purpose or another. And today, that core strength, I want you to think of that as the foundation for the open heart. So to begin, I'll invite a little reverse tabletop here with your legs, and to place the block against your thighs and your elbows against the block. Head gets to just simply rest down. And then we're going to find a little isometric hold, pressing knees into elbows, elbows into block. We've got the block here to give you a little bit of something to hold up here. So if you don't give it enough press, the block will fall. So just really feel that awakening of your core, your inner strength, perhaps that courage. You might even feel a little shake here, and that's welcome. Okay. And then very mindfully release that press. We're going to continue with the block, this time just against your right knee, still lifted. with your left elbow, and you can use your hands to support your head. And then from there, maybe lifting your left foot off the ground, and you can send your left foot forward and in, allowing yourself to really feel that isometric hold between right knee, left elbow with your block. And then you might also choose to take your left leg, lifting and lowering here. So it's up to you whether you want to go with that pulley movement in and out or the lever of lifting and lowering. Whichever you're choosing, stay in integrity with your breath and movement. All right, one more this side. And then placing left foot on the earth and mindfully coming out of that position without dropping a block on yourself. Let's switch it out. Left leg lifts, block on your thigh, right elbow to block, hands behind the head. You can stay here. This is plenty, right? Just feeling that isometric hold. Or maybe you begin to find that right leg like a pulley in and out. Or maybe you begin to find that lifting and lowering of a lever, all the while pressing that block, thigh, elbow. One more here. And foot to floor. And we'll release the foot, the block. Block can go out of the way now. Next invitation, and these are all invitations, opt in, opt out as suits you, is to take both feet off the floor this time to find a little bicycle side to side. Just integrating what we did unilaterally now with a contralateral movement, not only good for your core, but good for your brain. And we'll close this short course series out by taking the inside edges of the feet together, knees wide, draw everything in like a little clamshell, really feel that tight connection, and then open it up. And as you send feet forward or head back, you get to choose the range of motion here that still allows you to stay in integrity with your low back and your core. Exhale as you compress, inhale as you open. Good. One more like that. And then lowering down, planting your feet. And we'll open up this front line of the body that we just found through contraction with an invitation to find a bridge pose. And today I'll invite you to plant your elbows down, send your hands up, palms facing each other, and then press into the earth with your feet, your elbows and triceps to allow your hips and lower back to roll up off of the floor. And you can stay just like this, or some of you might choose to take your hands down, to interlace your fingers, to roll your upper arms under, and that's totally up to you. Really feel your breath like a wave, and that connection perhaps between your abdomen, your diaphragm, and your heart. And then slowly unhooking your hands, rolling your spine to the earth. And then a little organic movement driven by, guided by your sensations. So you might find a little cat stretch side to side, or whatever your animal of the day might be. A little lion stretch. Lengthening, you can move your knees from side to side. It might even roll your shoulders up and over. Good. And let it feel good. And then slowly back to center. Drawing knees in enough to give yourself a massage and maybe a few rocks here. Eventually rocking up to sitting. And from here, invitation is to plant your hands behind you. Now, the easiest position for hands is going to be kind of at an angle where your fingers are angling away from your body. And the harder positions is to have your fingers straight back or straight toward you. So those are all hand options for this next reverse tabletop shape. And in the reverse tabletop, you can stay right here with your buttocks on the floor, right? That's your preferred version of this. And some of you might choose to lift up off the floor. It's kind of like that bridge, except a different position with feet and hands. And it's always safest for your neck to keep your chin tucked. If you feel you want to go a little bit further back, keep your gaze down towards the tip of your nose as you lift hips. And then bring the focus of your breath to your heart center. There's 2 more dynamic breaths right there, right into the heart. One more. And then setting your hips down, listen carefully. We're going to stay in this lean, and you might walk your hands just a little further back so that your heart, it's like your sternum is being lifted by a very delicate little filament towards the heavens. Okay, so your heart's being lifted, your sternum's lifted. And then from here, if it feels right for you, your body, invitation is a little bit of a Kapalabhati breath, okay? And it'll sound and look like this. When you're breathing, and you can continue on your own, you're drawing navel back towards spine, but I want you to continue to focus on heart center. Good. And then staying in this shape, just a few long, deep breaths here. One more. Good. And then up and over into tabletop. And from here, an invitation to integrate all of that, the spinal movement, the breath, the core strengthening, and find your own free form flow right here. How does your body want to move as guided by your sensations? Now, I'm not guiding any traditional cat-cows, so you might want to find that. I won't be leading you through any thread the needle. If you want a little twist here, go for it. Another few breaths. Really honoring, listening. Super. And when and if you feel ready, what I will guide you to explore is to curl your toes under, to press your hips back, and to begin to walk yourself up into toes pose. So we have some emphasis today on just waking up through connective tissue and recognizing that as we open up through the fascia of one area of the body, it translates all the way through. It's a beautiful communication system. And of course, your vagus nerve is part of that. So a few breaths, gifting the soles of your feet with your attention. And then leaning forward enough to unhook the toes, and then sitting back onto your heels. And you can adapt any of this by coming off of them if it's too much. And where we're going here is to open up through the fronts of your ankles and shins. And so it's an invitation to lift one knee, the other, and perhaps both at the same time. It's rolling back. And we're not in any of these shapes for too long. So if any of them don't speak to you, then we'll be out soon. All righty. Next one, to lift hips, to curl toes back under, and then to lift knees up. So we're in a tight little ball squat, and you might even give that ball a little bounce. It's up to you. You can release the back of your neck, tuck your chin. And then for this next one, you might lower your knees for a moment just to widen your feet, and we come right back up into a squat, this time with the feet wider. And I really encourage you to just explore how your body wants to greet the shape. I personally love to rock a little from side to side. One knee lifts as the other lowers a bit, and the heel lifts as the other lowers. Good. And then from this shape, invitation is to begin to lift your hips, and you can walk your hands forward enough and you can keep your knees bent enough so that you come into an initial forward fold here. Head can be heavy. And this ragdoll shape, maybe your hands are on the earth, maybe you place blocks under your hands to bring the earth closer. And perhaps you might want to clasp your hands up by your sacrum and then draw clasped hands up overhead, finding a yogi mudra shape, head bowed beneath your heart. And then slowly soften hands back to the earth, walking your hands forward or your feet back, depending on where you are on your mat. And an invitation for a little walk the dog series here. So you can walk out one knee and then the other. And then I'll invite you to wag your tail. And by that, I'm going to invite you to bend both knees one direction, heels will go the other way, and then wag your tail the other direction. And you can find your rhythm side to side, lifting and lowering, reading your side body. Inhale through center and exhale. Good. And then back to center, downward facing dog. From your downward dog, invitation to lift your right leg, feeling those 3 points of contact with the earth. For this first one, keeping your hips parallel to the earth, and then lower your right foot down. We'll find that same action with your left side. Lifting left foot, breath or two here, parallel through your hips, and then lower down. And then slightly different action here, lifting right leg, bending right knee, stacking hips, feeling the difference of the shape, little psoas opener here. And then re-squaring hips, right foot to earth, and switching it out, left leg to lift, stacking hips. Re-paralleling hips, foot to earth. Great. And then once again, invitation is to lift your right leg. This time, exhale, stepping forward and through, grabbing blocks, a nice tool to have here for this series. And the invitation is to come into a little free flow in this right foot front lunge. Just greeting, hamstring, hip flexor. And then eventually I'll invite you to shorten your stance just enough here to find a variation of a pyramid shape. So for a pyramid, you can see we've got a nice triangular shape in the legs, and you can lengthen the spine forward to start. And you can always find a little micro bend in that right knee, protecting your joints, and then beginning to perhaps fold over your right leg. And then it's yours. How does your breath, how do your sensations help you deepen into this shape? Make it yours. Whether you want movement or stillness is totally up to you. And then finding that halfway lift again, the invitation is to step your left foot just a bit further back so that we can come from pyramid into a variation of triangle. And I'll invite you to start with your left hand on your left hip. You can always micro bend in your right knee once again, really honoring your body, and then begin to perhaps sweep your left arm overhead and back down. Finding sensations in your left side body. You can pause in any juicy spots that feel good to you. Gorgeous. And then from here, rebending into your right knee, and I'll invite you to come forward and just for a moment, move your blocks to the other side of your mat. They'll come in handy in a moment, but then come back to center. We're going to pause here in a prasarita forward fold. And as with those other shapes, you can keep that micro bend in both knees here as you find your forward fold. And perhaps a little bit of swaying or bouncing or stillness, up to you. And then using your hands to find a halfway lift, switching heels to angle slightly in, and then bringing elbows to your thighs. So it's like a horse type shape in the legs, but we're staying low. And again, you might find a little bounce or a little sway side to side, greeting the inner line of your legs. Just a few breaths here. Good. And then we're going to switch around back of the mat. Hopefully blocks are conveniently there. And a few breaths in and out of your left leg lunge. And eventually shortening your stance. Pyramid side two. And that little micro bend is needed in your left knee, finding a long spine to start if you'd like. And then exploring what your body is called for you to do on this side, maybe a bowing in, a sound, a ha, a sigh. You can release out through your neck again if that's grown tight, or your shoulders. And then from here, finding that halfway lift, lengthening your stance. And we find from the ground up a variation of Trikonasana triangle. You can keep that micro bend in your left knee. Maybe you start with right hand on right hip. And then perhaps begin to bring right arm arcing back and forth. Maybe your gaze follows. And we're going for what feels good. Gorgeous. As we come back forward, rebending through left knee, we're going to turn forward. You can switch your blocks around to the top and then return back to center. And a little fold. Maybe this time in your prasarita forward fold, reaching around and behind once again, taking a yogi mudra, clasping hands, letting arms come up overhead. Opening up through the backside of your heart. And then slowly, by way of your sacrum, releasing your hands to the earth, finding a halfway lift. And turning back forward towards your right foot. This time, invitation is for right foot to step back to meet your left. And then to roll forward into a high plank. To lower your knees, pressing hips towards heels, a little greet of a child's shape, only to progress forward to the earth. And greeting the earth belly down for a few rolling cobras here. Planting your hands and finding your range of motion. Lifting and lowering. Good. One more like that. And then pressing back up through table, Keeping hips above your knees to walk your hands forward into Anhatasana, which is the reference here for the heart chakra pose. So as we lower forehead to the earth, reaching your fingertips forward, also sometimes called puppy dog pose. So we can think of those puppy dogs as heart awakening creatures as well. And fingertips planted, maybe lifting palms off the earth and breathing into the backside of your heart once again. Remember, everything here is the most gentle invitation, nothing forced. And then slowly sliding your way into a tabletop and into a downward facing dog once again. From downward facing dog, invitation is to lift your right leg. On an exhale to step forward and through, and this time to find a knee down lunge. So for a knee down lunge, you might choose a little pillow or a folded blanket underneath the knee as a way to just provide comfort, right? That's a nice goal. How can we create more comfort? And as you lift up, right, you can adjust as needed. So the more that you kind of send your hips back and lean forward, the less sensation in your hip flexor. And the more that you lift up or lean forward, the more sensation you'll likely find. And you can find a few breaths even just in and out. And maybe perhaps bringing your arms for the ride so you can find a little arm flow here. Good. And the next time we'll bring our arms down to the earth and lifting left knee. You can move that pillow to the side if it's not needed now. And I'll invite you to plant your left heel. Okay. From here, it's like we've got a down dog shape in the legs, or excuse me, a warrior two shape in the legs, and then a down dog shape in your upper body. So we'll call this ostrich and let your head bury in the sand for a moment. You're reaching hands forward. You can reach your hips back, grounded in the legs, shoulders, head soft. Okay. And as we walk back, maybe taking one of those blocks with you to place it behind your right foot or shin so that we'll come from the ground up into an extended side angle. Once again, starting left hand towards left hip. So we've got the legs in that warrior two base, and then maybe sending your arm up, arcing overhead, just like we did in triangle. Gaze might be down, ahead. Maybe it's lifted, but really listening to how your neck gives you feedback. And then I'll invite you to draw your left arm round and behind. So you're in like a half bind here, and there's no goal for that half bind other than to create space in the left side of your neck. So I'll invite you to draw your left shoulder down towards the spine as you allow your head to hang towards your right shoulder. And then you can choose how much you simply let go into gravity versus engage. But I invite you to breathe into the sensations in the left side of your neck and shoulder. And then turning your gaze down, pressing into feet just enough to begin to lift into a reverse warrior. So we're going to keep going past warrior two, keeping that left half bind with your arm, left arm. Okay. And then from here to take your right hand behind your head. So we're not going into a full archer arms, just a supported shape. And you can deepen into your right knee bend if you'd like. And with that support behind your head, just simply lift your right elbow a little further to the ceiling. Good. Exhale all the way down to the earth. We're going to release the hands, stepping right foot back to meet the left. And then rolling forward towards that plank, knees down, hips back. Just enough to send yourself forward all the way to the earth. And for a moment, pause, maybe hand over hand, resting your head on the stacked palms for crocodile. You can stay here, or if you'd like, releasing your hands, lifting your head, and finding a clasp at your sacrum. We found this place in the arms before. This time, invitation is to lift your heart, finding locust. And you can stay with the lift just in the upper body, or you might lower down on an exhale and lift heart and legs for this next one. And then release. Pressing back, child's. And slowly, when you're ready, from a tabletop, meeting in downward facing dog. And we'll find all of that on side 2. From downward dog, invitation is to lift through your left leg. Exhale, forward and through. And this time, placing right knee onto a cushion of some kind, if you like that. And then lifting up. Finding your way in on this side, and this side might have a different story to tell. And you might bring your arms into a looping motion here. You got it. And then eventually lowering hands down, lifting right knee and planting right foot. Warrior 2 base in the legs. And then begin to walk your hands off the right side of your mat. Head can hang heavy for ostrich. And slowly walking hands toward your left foot. And left hand can come to the outside. I personally like a block here in preparation for extended side angle. And you can start with right hand on your right hip, finding the base in the legs, finding the shape, and then perhaps bringing right arm overhead, choosing a place for your gaze down to the side, lifted. And then perhaps up and around, finding that half bind. And again, the only purpose of this, the goal is to then draw right shoulder away from your right ear and then settle your head away, resting into gravity or as much as feels comfortable for you. And using your breath. We're going to recruit the strength of legs here. So really tune into your legs as you begin to lift up. Ooh. And we'll go all the way into a reverse shape. And then from that reverse shape, left hand behind your head, and it's your elbow that begins to lift. Gorgeous. Come on out. We unwind, we return to the earth from where we came, sending left foot back. And then bending your knees, rolling forward to plank, knees to earth, hips back. And then coursing forward all the way down. So this time, our heart opener is going to be an invitation for bow pose. However, you can return to cobra. You can return to locust, or if you're choosing to join me in bow, bending your knees, reaching back for ankles or tops of feet, and then pressing feet into hands and lifting. Letting the press of your legs into your hands be what opens and lifts the heart. And then release. Releasing knees, releasing feet, and an invitation to come back to child. And settle. You might sense your heartbeat, and then continuing to allow your breath to invite a softening in your kidneys and the back of your heart, your hips, letting your head and shoulders release into the support of the mat. And you can stay here. And if you're choosing to move forward, coming up through table, curling toes under, downward facing dog. And this time, a gentle walk forward with your feet or back with your hands, however you would like to transition up to standing. And take your time. It's our first actual moment of standing well into this class. And I'll invite you to take your feet relatively wide. So our really one standing pose for this practice. is going to be a breath practice called Breath of Joy. Some of you may be familiar with this one. It's very fitting for today's theme. And our Breath of Joy is a 3-part inhale with movements of the arms. And you can also think about filling belly, diaphragm, chest with that 3-part inhale as we move the arms. And the arm movement is going to be a forward, to the side, lift it up, and then the exhale is a okay? And the inhale you can think of through the nose as 3 kind of sniffs in that are filling, 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 okay? And we'll do it together. Inhale. One more. And then come to stand. You can have a little bend in your knees and just feel what wakes up in you. How does your heart respond? Can you sense your fingers, your toes, your face, maybe a little signs of your aliveness? Maybe you feel your heartbeat. Maybe some tingling. Maybe playing around a little bit with letting your intention just soak in a little bit more in that energetic space. And if you want to join me in mine for today, I am open to wholehearted living. We're going to make our way back down to the mat together. I'll invite you to turn back forward if you're not there already. And an invitation to sweep your arms up. Just one sun salutation. Forward fold on an exhale. Inhale to a halfway lift. And an exhale, planting hands, stepping feet back, downward facing dog. And from our downward dog, an invitation here to inhale your right leg up and exhale forward for a half pigeon. Now you can always come to your back, remember, and come here. If half pigeon is not supportive for you, come to a supine figure 4. If you're coming into half pigeon, I'm going to invite you before you go into resting or sleeping pigeon to take a moment and find the lifted heart. So that's going to involve drawing your legs toward each other. So all of that leg strengthening we were doing and core strengthening, again, the foundation for the open heart that keeps us grounded at the same time. And maybe open your arms wide. Maybe you reach around and you clasp the hands behind. Really squeezing knee toward knee, inner thighs drawing inward, finding the lifted heart. And then on an exhale, release and begin to soften. And that doesn't mean we give it all away. So we're going to lengthen forward just as much as we lower. And you can continue to keep some of that drawing in towards the pelvis as you lower. And you can once again find that draw in and then the softening. And eventually finding your supportive spot to rest, to release the shoulders, the back of your neck, your forehead, and to engage your breath to facilitate any additional softening, whether that's in your right hip or knee, shoulders, jaw. And slowly begin to transition back out of your pigeon shape. Now, I'm going to offer a playful transition out of this. You can opt in or out. This particular transition involves curling left toes under, lifting right leg, returning to that open stacked hip position, and then either staying there, or some of you might send your right toes all the way around, coming into a wild thing, heart opening shape. And if that's you, follow it. And if it's not you, honor that. Just 1 or 2 breaths here. And then up, around, over, back to downward dog, however you'd like to get there. And we'll find pigeon on side 2. This time, left knee towards your left hand. And we'll start with that lifted variation, that heart opening variation as we draw everything to center. Everything to center. Maybe your arms open. Maybe you clasp hands. And remember, we're drawing knee to knee, inner thighs are engaged, core is engaged. And use your breath. And then perhaps release. You can keep that engagement in the legs as you begin to bow forward. And you might re-lengthen. And then bow again. And one more time like that. Before settling yourself to the earth. And then the focus becomes one of letting go into a receptive mode. You might again scan your body, notice any unnecessary holding, and then let your breath encourage those areas to soften just a little bit, even just 5%. Shoulders, jaw, the furrow in your brow, the back of your neck, all around your heart, low back and hips. There you go. And then very gently, lovingly pressing yourself back up. And you know the transition that we did on the other side. So if that served you and you want to refine that again, you're going to curl right toes under, you send left hip back. And then left leg begins to curl and hips begin to stack. And that's a great place to stay. And some of you might send those toes all the way over and then lift the heart. Now, one more breath here if you're lifted, and eventually up and around, downward facing dog. The lower knees. And to turn all the way over onto your back. You can, no fancy transition there. We'll just meet on the back. Good. And once you arrive, checking in. What is your body calling for now? So there's been a lot of preparation in this flow for heart opening. And you can move right into a Shavasana if you're ready for that, or a spinal twist, or a happy baby, or any shape of your body that has no known name. If you'd like to join me, I'm going to guide two back bends. The first will be bridge, which we did earlier, and we'll start there. Planting your elbows, your triceps, your feet into the ground, lifting through your hips, maybe reaching down, clasping your hands. And a few breaths here. Maybe even noticing what's begun to shift, open, change. Can you find this shape with a quality of ease and softness? And then releasing hands, rolling to the earth. And for a moment, sending both legs out long, opening palms. And now you might say, I found my Shavasana and I'm ready to go there. For those of you that would like one more heart expanding shape, you can go back into bridge, or I'm going to guide wheel, which I don't always guide in these classes, but it feels like that was calling for this class. So I'm going to go for it. So if you are one where you know that works in your body, bending your knees, and this time as you prepare to lift your hips, rather than placing your hands down, we're going to place them up over your shoulders, fingertips facing your shoulders here, and then begin to roll hips off the ground and press into hands enough to place crown of head on the earth for a moment. Reset your strong hands into the earth, and then lifting all the way up. So there is no right, wrong, better, or worse way to practice yoga. And you don't need to do this pose to find the open heart. But if it is calling to you and you want to go there and commit to it wholeheartedly. 2 more breaths, whatever your chosen shape is. And then slowly tucking chin, lowering to the earth, and sending both legs long. A moment of full integration in the supine shape. And whatever shape you have chosen for your body, you might arrive here and still notice your heart beating. Celebrate that. So I have an offering for today's class, and it's a guided meditation, which you can do remaining on your back, or you might choose to do seated. So listen to your body. Ask yourself what would be the most supportive shape for you. And I'll take us through just a few more minutes of a guided practice here. So in whatever shape you have chosen, imagine sending roots downward, connecting to the ground and to the earth beneath you. And then begin to bring this grounded earth energy up through your body. And take a few deep breaths. And as you breathe, bring your focus to your heart, your physical heart and your spiritual heart. Whether you're laying down or seated, maybe a micro movement or two that fine-tunes your ability to find that open heart. As you breathe into your heart, fill your lungs, maybe even lift your chest slightly, enlarging the space for your heart. And then let that breath go and just sense and feel your heart. And then perhaps bring in an image of someone you love most, someone whose voice has said, I love you, and who has opened your heart. To do so helps to access the pericardium or the heart protector, allowing your heart to be touched and opened. And then I'll invite you to take a deep breath into the left upper chamber of your heart. Feeling your heart space. This is the full heart, the heart of abundance, the place that allows us to come buoyant and overflowing to the world. In this space, you have something to share, and everything you touch turns to gold. Breathe into your full heart and sense how full you are. Recognizing that sometimes we touch the converse of the full heart and we come to the world half-heartedly without a sense of your own presence or capacity to give. And if that's you, breathe into your full heart and see what it needs from you to better live and better serve you. Let it whisper into your inner ear what it needs. And then transfer your focus to the left lower chamber of your heart, expanding into this with a deep breath. This is the open heart. Open heart is like a child's heart, the 5-year-old's heart. It is an incredibly sensitive antenna that can lead the rejected child to burst into tears. Open heart has no judgment. And the converse of the open heart is being closed or shielded or hard-hearted. And here we say the wounds are too great. I can't take any more. And if this is you, breathe into the left lower chamber of your heart. Take a deep breath as if your life depends on it. And just honor the needs of this open heart. And then bring your attention to the right upper chamber of your heart with a deep breath. This is the heart of diamond clarity, clear heart. The still pool of water that simply reflects and doesn't color. Seeing everything and knowing everything because there is perfect clarity at the interface of the heart's eye and the world. Clear heart is willing to approach life with palms open, saying, look, I have nothing to hide. Clear heart is when you connect throat to heart, letting your voice be heard like a crystal. And the converse of clear heart is the cloudy heart. Indecision, not knowing which way to go, and unable to see the way ahead. And when you sense that you are in cloudy heart, you need time to get clear. Rest your consciousness on the top right upper chamber of your heart, folding your energy around that chamber and wish it well. And then take another powerful breath, a lifting of your chest, expanding your rib cage, and bring the energy from the earth, from your root, into the right lower chamber of your heart, the strong heart. Breathing into your lion heart. Feel your heart as big as a lion's, afraid of nothing, king or queen of the jungle. Able to look on everything with absolute equanimity because you have nothing and nobody to fear. And the converse of strong heart is holding back or feeling tentative. Maybe we give in to others and say, why did I do that? Why do I make myself little sometimes? And if you relate, breathe into strong heart and see what it needs from you. And then I invite you to take a breath into your whole heart at once. The full, the open, the clear, and the strong. Saying, this is me, my center, my spiritual heart. Take a few deep breaths, circulating this energy throughout your body. Feel the expanse of the energy of your heart, and perhaps open the door. Thank you for staying. Taking your time. If you want to remain in Shavasana, remain. If you want to gently, slowly reawaken, fingers, toes, maybe rolling to one side or rocking on your spine. And for a moment, whether you're supine, still resting on your back, which so many of you are, and it's beautiful to witness, or whether you've returned to seated. the wholehearted living place within me bows to, honors, and acknowledges the courage that it takes to be that wholehearted living within you. With gratitude, namaste.